Welcome back. You're still tuned in to Salam Media with myself, Salailo Makwidire. And as I mentioned before we went to that short breather, we'll be speaking to Communications Manager and Campaigns Manager at Africa for Palestine, Ali Komape. Just touching briefly on essentially the new dispensation in South Africa, or what's seemingly going to be a new dispensation, as the African National Congress yesterday announced. The president of the ANC, who's by default the president of the country, announced that they're going to be looking at a government of national unity, something that's going to be reflective of 1994, when democracy dawned on our beloved South Africa, and various political parties, including the National Party, by the way, who are the instigators and the bearers of apartheid, were also in the mix. They were in Parliament as part of this new dispensation of democracy, and including everyone. And we're going to be having something that's going to be reflective of that after the ANC, the African National Congress, a political party that has governed South Africa for the past 30 years, failed to get an outright majority in the previous elections. And we'll be speaking to Alie Komape about some of the expectations, because with the government of national unity, you'll obviously have different political parties that have varying, opinions when it comes to the issue of Palestine. I mean, we've heard the Democratic Alliance, the Patriotic Alliance, and a whole of other parties saying, they might have to relook the fact that South Africa is currently actively involved in an ongoing case, and has presented a case to the ICJ about the ongoing genocide against the people of Palestine perpetuated by Israeli occupying forces. Ali Komape is joining us over the phone. Ali, thank you so much for joining us on Salam Media. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, and thank you for having us this morning.
Yeah. As I mentioned before I went to the break, South Africa is going to be having something that's reflective of the 1994 dispensation after the dawn of democracy, a government of national unity. The president came out yesterday and said, they'll be involving everyone, essentially, from all spheres of the South African political landscape, everyone that's interested, to come to the party to rebuild, the nation, and, try and fix everything that's happening in the country. And with that comes the fact that you're going to have political parties that might have, different opinions when it comes to the issue of Palestine and how South Africa approaches it. With that, it might affect South Africa and our activism regarding Palestine and that case that we've presented to the ICJ. As Palestine solidarity organizations, is there concern regarding this, regarding that there are going to be some political parties who are going to be very, very powerful in the National Assembly that might not subscribe to Palestine as the governing party of the ANC has had?
Look, we are not very much concerned about that. What we know is that 40% that the ANC got. It means whatever arrangement that becomes a government in this country would have to have ANC at the helm of it. So you're looking at, if it's a coalition agreement between the ANC and other parties, the ANC would assume they will get head of state, and I think that's a very important position when you deal with national interest of the country and national interest outside of the country. So I think it's very important, those things, and we are comfortable with that. In the arrangement that President Ramaphosa is proposing of government of national unity, you will still have the ANC as head of government. And when you speak about national interest, you're looking at the international relations minister. So speaking, not to sound academic or abstract, but the office of the foreign minister is an extension of the office of the president. So we are also comfortable in that regard, that whoever assumes the responsibilities of a minister of foreign affairs or Department of International Relations and Cooperation will be an extension of the president. So it won't be someone who has different ideas from a different political party. But another thing that makes us feel comfortable with the current arrangement of the parties in government is that over 70% of the parties that of the electorate, they're voting for parties that support Palestine, with the exception of the Democratic Alliance, IFP, and the PA. Other than that, all parties in parliament support the Palestinian cause. So we are still very comfortable with that. Whatever arrangement of government that will come through, we believe the status quo will remain. That does not mean we are not wary of a DA government. We do not want a DA government. We are not apologetic about that. We don't hide it. As a Palestine solidarity movement in South Africa, we looking for the Democratic Alliance, and we don't want them in any positions of power anywhere because of their stance on Palestine, but other issues as well. So we are wary of that, but we are quite comfortable that whatever arrangement of government is going to be formed, the status quo will remain.
I think the concern maybe for me is the fact that the African National Congress doesn't really enjoy majority in the National Assembly. So essentially, a vote can be put down on whether or not South Africa should be continuing with the case at the ICJ. The ANC, which was the government of the time when we presented that case, and it might fall differently. I mean, the DA, as much as they are the opposition party, they still wield a lot of influence on what you might consider the smaller parties, because of you might remember that there was a formation of that Moonshot Pact, where the DA essentially said, if we do get above 50% or 40 something percent, you guys are going to give us, your unwielding support, and we're going to unseat the DA. Isn't that a concern? The fact that the African National Congress doesn't enjoy that outright majority as it did for the past 30 years, and their stance on Palestine, being carried by the fact that they're the government of the day, and they wield so much influence and numbers in the National Assembly.
Of course, it's a concern. It's really unfortunate on an international scale that the ANC does not enjoy a majority electorate in this country. Setting aside the domestic issues, having the ANC has done exceptionally well on the international fora, especially during the tenure of Minister Melody Pandor. We've done exceptionally well, and we've set the standard in the continent, and some might argue in the world. But it is a concern that they're no longer a government that enjoys majority electorate. But like I said, we are comfortable that the ANC and other parties that are very vocal on Palestine and share similar views on Palestine would form a government. The DA got around 24%, 24% to somewhere there, if I'm not mistaken. We don't believe they have numbers to go to form a government. They simply do not. So majority of the numbers, the opposition, they are the ones who have more support than the ones who support Palestine. So we of course we are worried, like I said, but it's not something that keeps us up at night, and we don't see it as a possibility. Whatever happens, whatever government is formed, we think the ANC will not be, the DA will not be head of government, and they will not hold positions such as ministerial positions in foreign affairs. We don't believe that. We are wary of it, but it doesn't keep us up at night. And we think that even in this particular arrangement, the parties that we voted for as South Africans are not isolated. We are saying to the government, to the ANC, and we are saying to like-minded parties, band together and form a government, because we have an interest, and our interest is Palestine. So we are not sitting on the fence and hoping for the best. We are actively asking the ANC and like-minded organizations to form a government so that the status quo remains on Palestine.
All right. I want us to take a quick break, but when we come back, I want you to, answer a question regarding who might be, the next foreign minister. It's looking very, very unlikely that Dr. Naledi Pandor might come back, into that department. There are rumors that she's, might retire. As solidarity organizations and as people who have worked very, very closely with Dr. Naledi Pandor, firstly, we can touch a bit about her legacy, that she's leaving behind in that department of foreign affairs. But also going forward, are there any other leaders that you're seeing and eyeing that might step into her shoes and continue the hard fight that she's been fighting, not only for Palestine, but for a range of issues across the world, and positioning South Africa internationally as a one that stands for justice, for truth, and for the oppressed people of the world. But I want you to answer that when we come back from this short break.
Contact Lenasia Livestock and Poultry for all your Sadaka, Akika and Kurbani requirements. We offer clean, hygienic abattoir style and refrigeration facilities. Sheep, goat and cows are available at competitive market-related prices, direct to the public. We slaughter, slice and distribute in your behalf. But that's not all. Introducing Meatmasters Halal Butchery, our sister company situated on our farm in Lenasia. Unbeatable price.